And welcome to our day's news. I'm Solomon Danye. Thanks for joining me. Deputy Prime Minister Demeke Mekonnen says Ethiopia will conduct the second filling of the GERD as scheduled. Demeke made the remark while speaking at a virtual meeting entitled Equitable Use of the Nile. Demeke said the AU brokered meeting should continue as it is the only means of resolving the impasse surrounding the hydropower dam on the Nile River.
Hi, my name is Brooke Thomas Hafterend. I was born and raised in the UK. I do not like what the Egyptians are doing to Ethiopia. This is my dam.
It's my dam.
It's my dam.
It's my dam.
It's my dam.
It is my dam.
It is my dam. It's my dam.
Renowned personalities, community activists, civic organizations and celebrities gathered in Addis Ababa to say no to external pressures. They chanted various slogans such as "The dam is my money," "Abai is my river," "Abai is our grace," "Ethiopia will not kneel."
We're here today to show our solidarity with all Ethiopian citizens around the world, to show that our independence and our sovereignty, which is in our history, should be maintained and respected by all nations around the world. As it's known, Ethiopia is the only independent country in the world, and today we're seeing some orders coming to Ethiopia into twisting the hands of the government and the policymakers. So we're saying, hands off Ethiopia. All Ethiopians around the world, please make your statements and show your unity. Even though we have differences in this transitional time, we stand together, as our history shows, when it comes to foreign influence.
The event, according to Zeleka, is to stand against foreign intervention in Ethiopia's internal affairs.
Today, we're proclaiming that all other governments who are trying to influence and interfere in our internal affairs, please, hands off Ethiopia. One. Number two, we have a few transitional moments now. There is an election, and there is the filling of the dam. This dam is our Adwa of this generation. So this generation is determined to finance it, build it, and finish it. This is to come out of poverty by our own survival, by our own insistence. So nobody can stop this. Please cooperate with us, as historically we're the most diplomatically connected country in Africa to all of the world, from USA to Great Britain, France, Italy, all of them. So let's cherish that relationship that is very historical and long-term, from long time ago. So from today on, we ask all Ethiopians around the world and in the country here nationally to make a noise, show your civility without any disturbance or anything, just to tell the world that we're all united when it comes to the development and the democratic process establishment in Ethiopia.
External pressures keep coming as Ethiopia is gearing up to a national election and the second filling of the $5 billion dam GERD during the next rainy season. On Wednesday this week, influential Ethiopians spoke out to the world community about the undue pressure and intervention in Ethiopia's internal affairs by Western powers. Today, Ethiopians protested to Western pressure by honking horns and shouting on the streets here in Addis Ababa. Joining me now to talk more on the matter is Andagacho Tsege, a seasoned politician. Hello, Mr. Andagacho.
Hello.
Thank you for having you.
Yeah, thank you for having me as well.
Well, you intended to deliver letters to embassies today, but that has not happened. Why?
To put it briefly, we had made it abundantly clear using the mainstream and the social media that our protest will not include huge rallies or demonstrations anywhere. Let alone outside the American or the British embassy. But the embassies deliberately distorted, in fact, our message, and they gave the impression as if there would be huge demonstrations and rallies outside their embassies, and they told their customers that they would not be doing business as usual, and they shut their embassies. So the whole tactic was to deny the representatives or the delegates of the organizers to deliver them the letter that would express the outrage Ethiopians felt as a result of really the U.S. and the European or Western countries meddling in the internal affairs of Ethiopia. That's why we couldn't deliver the letter.
Okay, lately the likes of U.S. are considering sanctions against Ethiopia. There are some activities in the Senate, including proposed sanctions. What message do you wish to convey to the world community and the superpowers on the matter?
Well, I mean, I've seen the resolution by the American Senate. Yes, there is a threat of sanction, but I don't think they will go ahead with that, provided, in fact, the Ethiopian public comes out in large number and show them that the state in Ethiopia is not as weak as they think, and the people are not as divided as they think. The American Senate, in fact, would pass a resolution only if they believe, in fact, they can coerce the Ethiopian government easily. And if we, especially the public, shows its outrage and its strong will that it will not bend, or it will not allow the government to bend to the wishes of Western governments. I don't think the American Senate would have the courage or the audacity to go and impose sanctions on Ethiopia. They will only do that if Ethiopians sit, on our hands and don't do anything to show that we mean business when it comes really to the freedom and independence of our country.
Mr. Andagacho Tsege, thank you for your time. Have a good night.
You too, thank you.
Well, a seasoned Ethiopian politician says external pressure against Ethiopia is a reflection of their desire to kill a reformed and democratic government in the making. The politician, Dima Nego, told ETV here today that Western governments, particularly the US and UK, do not want many countries to build strong governments based on majority votes. And Dayo Tamrat reports.
The US, among several Western governments, is exerting huge pressure on Ethiopia using the law enforcement operation in Tigray as a pretext. Some have commented that this is nothing but an attempt to install a weak and ineffective government in Ethiopia. One such politician is Dima Nego. The founder of the Oromo Liberation Front, Dima took position as a minister during the transitional government. Although he stayed abroad after the TPLF evicted many of the opposition, Dima has returned soon after the reform 3 years ago. Dima says the US cannot tell Ethiopia what to do, or this will constitute a clear violation of its sovereignty.
Not just in this country, but in many other countries as well. Western powers, especially the United States and the United Kingdom, do not like governments, regimes based on a significant proportion of the country's population. They don't want a majority rule. They want a system of government that is controlled by small minorities so that they are susceptible to their pressures and so that they also serve their interests in one way or the other. I think that is at the heart of the problem.
Massive as their efforts may be, they cannot succeed with restoring the TPLF since the TPLF has discredited itself through 3 decades of misrule and gross human rights violations across the country.
One thing is obvious, the TPLF is not going to be restored to power. It will not be restored. Any attempt by any external force will not make it possible for them to return to power. It's a spent force. It has discredited itself through 3 decades of maladministration, misrule, and gross violations of human rights throughout the country. It is a spent force. It cannot be returned to power, but the West wants to establish some leverage in the country so that it can influence future developments in this country.
These governments are trying to make pressures on Ethiopia also because they might have felt that they have been divested of their interests in the country. The 1991 misdeed of the United States government clearly evidences the sort of government they want to prevail in Ethiopia.
Of all previous regimes in recent history, the TPLF served the interests of these countries very well, more than any other previous government. So I remember when the TPLF was installed in power, when the former military government collapsed in 1991, I was at the London conference, and we tried to advise, begged the United States to organize some sort of a national dialogue so that a broad-based national government would be formed in Ethiopia. But instead, the United States ignored our pleas and allowed the TPLF to take control of Addis Ababa and then form a provisional government. Well, that was a mistake. I mean, we thought, well, at the time, they thought the TPLF is the one force that serves their interests. If a broad-based government was established, they thought it would have a broader support and would not be amenable to pressures from outside.
Welcome back. You're watching at this news hour. Correspondents of 4Media said journalists are duty-bound to respect laws of the land and ethics of their profession while reporting on events. Ethiopia has recently revoked the press credentials of a foreign journalist working for the New York Times. This comes after authorities issued warning letter to a reporter of the Associated Press. Daniel Kassan reports.
It's to be recalled that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's 2019 Nobel Peace Prize citation included praise for his discontinuing media censorship and banning of a number of media outlets and release of dozens of journalists. Gurung Chala, who is chief correspondent of the China Global Television Network CGTN, pointed out that the ongoing reform in Ethiopia has brought positive changes for journalists.
There are indeed at this time around changes to help the media operate much better than before. This is a fact that nobody can deny. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government needs to be appreciated for opening doors which have been closed for a long time, for letting journalists operate in a much better way.
Regard to the media landscape over the past few years, since the reformist government came to power, we have seen some positive changes, which includes the media sphere, specifically the online media.
In connection to abuses of rights by correspondents of media professionals, Dolam Sisai, who is freelance reporter for foreign broadcasters, said journalists are duty-bound to respect laws of the land and ethics of their profession to serve their purpose accordingly. It's to be recalled that Ethiopia has recently revoked the press credentials of a foreign journalist working for the New York Times. Earlier in the week, authorities issued a warning letter to a reporter of the Associated Press for releasing disinformation regarding the extension of the general election.
Nobody is saying that an international media cannot criticize the Ethiopian regime, Ethiopia, how it operates. Nobody is saying that Ethiopia cannot be looked at in a different angle or lens. That is what freedom of speech means. That is what freedom of operation in the media platform means. But targeted attack to the country, like the one we've seen in the 1980s famine of the country, which still left us with scars, is happening now.
You don't expect CNN or AP to serve the Ethiopian people. The primary goal objective of the CNN or Associated Press is to serve their own client interest or their owner's interest.
They also said Ethiopia needs to have a strong check and balance mechanism to tackle the adverse effects of fake news.
The critical thing Ethiopia needs, and the mass media authority, with all due respect, needs is a mechanism to perform check and balance so that this can be a better business for the future.
They also recommend rewarding journalists who are acting responsibly and respecting the laws of the land.